Volume 3, is it 3? God, this is going on. Volume 3, Deep Chats, AZ and DF.
Life and death doesn't exist. And when the first time I heard that, I was like, I'm trying to make sense of it in my head. Why? How is this person saying that? Well, like, what is
Do you remember who said it to you?
I remember. It was some successful businessman from America.
Yeah.
Like, I seen it on social media, you know, he just said it, and I was like, I was trying to understand where he's coming from. The first thing that came in my head was like, does that mean that all that matters is the present? Because life and death doesn't exist. So I was kind of reading, does that mean I have to be more present? But also at the same time, he's speaking from his perspective, saying that life and death doesn't exist. So pretty much live your life as if life and death doesn't exist. I try to make sense of that in my head, you know. What I could pull out of it's almost like, don't think about life and death. Just live.
Well, that's the thing.
Right?
It's this fine line between someone that's copied an Instagram quote, as I'm going to post that later on Instagram. It's a fine line between that and saying that quote with the intention to get people to ask better questions, like you said, from your own perspective. And I don't tell people what to do, and I don't tell people my full story, but that made me think of something that I experienced in 2018. I went and visited a shaman, and long story short, towards the end of the journey, to bring me back to reality, or to bring me back to some kind of leveled out place where I can go back to reality. I was in this white light. My physical body had now gone, and I was in this white light, and this shaman can't see what's going on because it's and this is where it gets even more complicated. It's what I can see and feel, but somehow he knew he'd taken me there, and he said, what can you feel? What is going on? And I guess that's what that white light is at the end of your days. I was at this white light, and you know that morning on Saturday morning, and you're under the blanket and everything's great and you don't have to do anything. It was kind of like that. Everything warm and everything was fine, and I didn't feel like I had to get to work, and I didn't feel like I had to call someone. In fact, there was no perception of that. And I'm like, this place is great. I'm like, where am I? It's like, this is where you go when you die. Like, you return back to this energy. I mean, that's a very rough, incredibly undescriptive way of what I just described I experienced. But he said, when you die, you'll go to that. And I'm like, that sounds great. That sounds like a pretty good deal. So why would I be afraid of death if I was going there? I mean, it's still no guarantee. I don't know I'm going there. And still I want to do in this life, this reality. But I also know from me 10 years ago, my understanding of where I'll actually go and what am I doing in this reality, if anything, I knew nothing. And people fear what they don't understand. And even that is just a very brief, very limited understanding of what I'm doing here and what's going to happen down the track, possibly. But I don't know how much fear that truly eliminates. I'm still like, oh, well, what if I go to that place, but I can't speak to all the people in this place? Or I can't live in this, and I guess that's the idea, like you can't come back. So what are you doing while you're here? Like, death isn't bad, and it's not like some eternal torture. It's just a pretty good feeling of going back to love or light or consciousness. And this is going fucking too deep too quickly.
Yeah,
when I understood that, it was like, so there's nothing to fear about dying, but I don't get to play this game again. So what am I going to do?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that tempts you, right?
Tempts you to do
But
what though?
exactly, you know what I mean? But what you said though was the people fear the unknown, right?
Yeah.
And let's move away from the death unknown, right?
Mm.
That's too deep of a subject, I think, for another time, right? But when it comes to, especially for the men you coach, and they fear the unknown, right? It's always the fear of starting something that could possibly change your life forever. And this is in any way, you know, financially, your relationships, mental health, physical health. And people fear the unknown. But I think the best thing to do when you have, because you usually have one or two decisions, or three, or one or two or three decisions to make. I think the longer you spend time contemplating which decision you're going to go for, there's less chance of you actually making that decision.
Let's
But if
bring
you
it back
just,
to something even more tangible. Facts, figures, money. Everyone wants to get paid. Everyone wants to get laid, or at least most single men do, if they're honest. What makes you commit to a trade? So you make money through trading. You look at the facts, you look at the data, you've been doing it for some time. What makes you look, but there's unknown. There's always some kind of level of unknown. What makes you look at something, and how long does it take until you, this, that, here's the now, what am I going to choose?
well, I mean, if you're talking about like for trading wise, it's, I'm looking for confirmations. Do you know what I mean?
Certainty.
Yeah. I have rules and plan to follow, so I'm looking for confirmations to fit that them rules and the plan,
Yeah.
and then I'm in the. So if we had to, I suppose, if you had to talk about life wise, I mean, most men know.
I don't want you to try and transition it to life, because that's where I get very, like when I talk about cars, I refer to men as cars, but I just talk about cars, and you can create your own understanding around that. But what I want to know, and I guess what I want to gain perspective from you myself, not just for trading, but where do you get your certainty from? Is it from facts? Is it from data? Is it because you have brass balls? Like, what is it?
I think it's one of them things that you can never have full certainty until you go with it, right? Experience will build. For me, that's what I notice in my life. Experience in doing certain things has built a certainty.
Yeah.
Because how many things do we do and we never do it right from the first time, the second time, the third right? There's plenty of little failures, you know, little falls down like, along the way. But as long as you're picking yourself up and you're learning from them, you're gaining more and more certainty. You should be gaining more and more clarity in where you're going because you've just made like 5, 10 mistakes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
well,
I
absolutely. I'm just trying to reverse engineer the average man's mindset, our mindset, maybe 5 to 10 years ago, and then also in relevance to what most men are doing Saturday night.
yeah. No,
Because
I
I wasn't
genuinely
any more certain or any less fearful back in the day. But even now, when I think about how dangerous going out Friday, Saturday night is, with no limitation on what you're going to spend the money on, with no backup plan, with how shit you're going to feel the next day.
yeah.
And this is how most men live. I thought, fuck, like you must be like pretty certain that's going to work with the amount of risks involved in that decision.
Yeah. But they're most likely not aware of it. Or or like I said, when you actually do reverse engineer the whole process, I do truly believe that certainty and things like that does come from doing something, right?
Yeah.
So if we reverse back engineer, right? and actually look at men and people in general, if they never go for it, and whatever it is that they want to do, whatever dream, goal, desire they want to achieve, if they actually never go for it, well, they never really build that experience. They can never really fail forward. They can never really build that certainty, right? They just completely give up. And that's what we're talking about, I think, on the first podcast, that they just accept their fate, their reality. That's my fate. I'm just work Monday to Friday. I'm going to go.
What that reminded me of was impulsive trades. Like, you know it's going to go up tonight, but what's going to happen tomorrow? And I think men know this. Like, they'll go all in on that trade. It'll go up. And when it crashes tomorrow, they don't even give a shit because they're in so much pain and they're even less aware than they were the night before. It's like, oh, well, I'll recoup my losses from that and we'll go again next week.
Yeah, I think most men are just not aware, you know, or they just haven't reached the point in their life where they want to do something about their lives, you know.
Yeah. Where did you get those rules from for trading? I guess in a short answer, I don't mean like what exactly are they and how long did it take you to acquire them, but where did you get them? What made you think I need some rules?
I work with a mentor, so obviously I invested in, or like just like your men invest into you. You know, you're their mentor in a way, right? So I invested in the mentor. I learned from him, and yeah, because I needed these rules because you're just kind of you're going into it's almost like living your life. You know, you're going into the trade, or you know, you're going into the markets, and you have no rules, no clear rules, no clear plan to follow, right?
Yeah.
And it's like just going. And you're taking the losses, and sometimes you're taking little wins, but most of the time it's just taking losses.
Well, it's like gambling, and any gambler will only ever tell you about their wins. I mean, if there is any. And I had that same mindset many, many years ago with this, where I knew nothing, I had no rules, but I had access to the table, and it was like 500. Shit. I mean, a little different to a roulette spin, but as you know, like, you can just watch it fucking plummet and be like, ah, good.
Yeah. Yeah. But the beauty about trading, and this does, you know, come together with life, is you have to calculate your risk way before you calculate your profit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So if you do the same thing in life, if you calculate the negatives of your decision making first, and then compare it to the positives, you're gonna realize if it's fucking worth it or not. You know what I mean?
What's your rock bottom? I mean, because I'm sure you've thought it out. What would be worst case scenario after worst case scenario after worst case scenario in 12 months? Like, how would you describe that?
I'm not sure if I want to answer that.
It's an interesting question, isn't it?
That's a negative law of attraction right now.
I don't mean to think that that's going to happen, but this is what I've been entertaining, these two ideas, where someone recently said to me, you can't even think about problems, or you can't even think about bad people and all these kinds of things. And I mean, well, cool, that's cool. But I mean, I was also in Mexico, and I couldn't just pretend there's no bad people. I was also in Mexico, and I couldn't just pretend that there was a very high fucking chance that I was going to get robbed. I mean, I'd like to just wish I could pretend that away, but I'm also me, so I would like to see them try.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. I think, like, that's the thing. You asked me that question. For me, it's uncomfortable to answer that question because, first of all, you're asking a man who already has hit his rock bottom.
Yeah.
So, for me to come to that rock bottom, I can just see a flashlight a couple of years
The reason
back.
why I brought that up is this is a question that I ask myself, and I also ask men, not just what's the worst your life could get in 12 months? I mean, that's a very dangerous thought process, but I mean, when I'm making a trade, so to speak, or I have to make an important decision, or I have to step up, I have to step my game up, and there's resistance. And it's not that I don't want what I want, but why aren't I fucking doing anything? And I think, well, what's the worst case scenario of this current timeline? And I think, what's the worst case scenario of the decision that I make? Not the best, because we know the best. And like, I'm pretty sure we can both live with best case scenario. Who can't? But I think worst case scenario if you start this business. Worst case scenario if you stay in this job, for example.
Yeah, you calculate your risk to reward.
And then I look at 40 years in the future staying in that job. And then I look at 40 years in the future starting that business. And I think even if I went through multiple rock bottoms going this way, I'd still prefer this one versus, fuck, even probably the best case scenario. If you're hating your current job and you do 40 years, like, you're not going to be too happy at the other side.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
and that's how I look at things and think, particularly when those warning lights are on, like the fuel light and the fucking altitude light, and you're like, fuck, you got to do something. That's the last time where you want to hit the accelerator and go. But sometimes it's about looking at not just going and doing more and putting in more hours, but simply looking at, all right, before this gets too bad, or while I have the luxury of choice, like, what decision do I make?
Yeah. No, but that's go back to what I said. It sounded from what you just said that you calculate your risk before the reward.
Well, that's the thing about being me, and I'll share this as honestly as possible. I'm not afraid of rock bottom. I'm not afraid of worst case scenario. I mean, I don't want them. I'll do anything to avoid them. But I also know from being there, I'm like, cool, this is my comfort zone. But now I've got another 10 years of work in front of me just to get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. You're not afraid of it because you've been there before.
The reason why I bring that up as well is, I don't know, I was talking to another coach. He's an African-American dude from, I guess, the hood or the ghetto. I mean, he's done it pretty tough. And we were having a chat and we both came to the realization we weren't doing what we could do or should do, or however you want to word that, because our current realities versus our old comfort zone, you can trick yourself to be like, this isn't so bad. This isn't so bad. I mean, it's got clean sheets, got Netflix, got insert like whatever the shit you want is. So yeah, it's not so bad. And I agree, yeah, it's not so bad, but was it what you wanted? Well, no, what I want is this. Well, why aren't you doing that? Because this isn't so bad until it is.
Yeah. No, I actually put this post on my Instagram as well. It was what you just said. It's when you're doing things in life, when you reach a certain level of success, whatever it is, in whatever area, you have two choices to make to kind of analyze that success. Do you get satisfied? It's almost like eating wise. Do you get satisfied, or are you still hungry for more? And if you ask this question to yourself, are you satisfied where you are now? It's either yes or no. And if it's a fucking maybe, then you need to ask yourself more questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think finding that answer, because that's what I think of. I think about the likes of like Tony Robbins. You know Tony Robbins.
I've never heard of him.
You never heard of him?
No, it's just my next level sarcasm.
I was about to close this podcast off.
Should I look him up?
He's a great guy. But it makes me think of how he's reaching millions of people and he's helping millions of people year after year after year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, how the fuck does he get on that level of constantly just going and going and going and going? It's almost like he's made a lifelong mission, and he's gone to the stage where he's fully committed to it. Do you know what I mean? Mm. And that's the process I personally try to get to, because I do notice myself, you know, I made some money from, you know, I could make sometimes from 1 or 2 trades my full weekly income. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, I notice myself relaxing more, taking the gas off the pedal. But I'm like, nah, there's plenty of more shit to do. If I'm not doing the Forex, look into something else, because there's much more potential from you. You can you can invest into different businesses. You can find different opportunities. You can literally create different opportunities. And once I do speak to myself like that, my focus shifts. You know what I mean? And if my focus shifts, my energy will go where my focus goes.
One of the biggest things I like to teach the guys that I work with is communication. And that might sound silly, but that's what I do, not just being able to have the courage or the balls to speak your mind, but being able to use your words in a much more productive and clear way so people know and you know what the fuck it is that you want. And I found this with myself when, this is a good one too, I'm going to get an arm pump later on, I'm going to tan myself up and then flex and then write comfort zones are dead zones and post that on Instagram. The comfort zones are dead zones. And it sounds like a fucking stupid Instagram post, but you have a nice movie night with the wife and things are great and like you check the bank before the end of the week and like things aren't so bad. It's like, yeah, things aren't so bad. They're not. It's like, do you want more? No, this is all I want. This is fine. And it's like, well, that's cool. Great. Movie night. And then you do that for 6 months and the wife starts to think like, all we've fucking done is watch movies for 6 months. And your boss starts to think, you've been doing about the same, give or take, about the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And your body, through the magic of time, you're starting to get older and your testosterone's starting to drop and your ability to do things isn't as good as it maybe once was. But in your mind, you're like, yeah, it's been great. Like, I feel good.
Yeah.
And maybe the girlfriend leaves or the wife leaves or you lose the job or you suddenly can't lose that 10 kilos of body fat that you maybe never lost. And it's just much harder now because you got that 10 years older. And nothing's really been wrong and you're not a bad guy for being in that comfort zone. This is when Rome wasn't built in a day and it also didn't fall apart in one day. It was, fuck, we're just banging out the quotes today. What's that quote? Well, it's saying, hard times build strong men and strong men build easy times. Easy times create weak men and weak men create hard times. And that's where we're at now. Good cycle. This is where we are now. Fucked.
That's what you said, like comfort zone is a dead zone. That's something I reference to. If you don't keep growing, you're slowly dying. Because like you said, once you reach that, like if you stop growing, you reach that comfort. You're most likely, there's going to be things that are going wrong in your life, right? Like you said, you might lose your job. Your boss said, listen, you've been doing the same shit. You made no improvements. You know, the wife is going to be like, listen, you're just living comfortable now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're growing, you're going to be slowly dying. That's really what my perspective on the comfort zone, dead zone. So true. It's just so true.
Yeah, and winning someone's heart over isn't just one thing. Winning a business contract isn't one thing. A friendship isn't just like accepting a friendship on Facebook. I think this is where we may have lost our way a little bit, where it's like once you hit that button and the connection is made, like that's it. But isn't it interesting? And I know many men will relate to this, where it's like they leave or you fuck things up and all of a sudden you'll do anything. Like you buy the nice dinners and you start acting like how you should or could, or like whatever it is, anything to get them back. And then should you be lucky enough to do, it generally repeats itself again. Or looking at a business contract. Every single fucking day you bitch about like you hate work and you don't want to be there. Boom, gone. And you're like, fuck. Oh, I wish I had that.
Just take it for granted. We all do. We all do, you know, and the more we remind ourselves to not take things for granted, it's fucking hard. It is hard, you know. We take a lot of things for granted and then we get kicked in the face and we're like, oh shit, why did I take that for granted, you know?
Yeah.
But myself, I really try to work like, I mean, I have a gratitude journal every morning, you know what I mean? I write my gratitude every morning. That keeps the old Amandas away, the ungrateful Amandas away, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I can fall back into them spaces very quick. And then they will be the first one to tell you, you know, you need to be more fucking grateful. And I'm like, yeah, you're fucking right, you know. I'm here complaining about shit that people will kill to have, right?
Well, that's where I got to crank things up a bit. Like I need the experience to see it. And like I talked about, I'm going to go for a couple of weeks ride. I'm going to ride through a refugee camp. There's actually a civil war going on near here. Not that it's in the media or anything. And I'm going to ride through a refugee camp. And that sounds silly or strange, or it's like, why would you do that? If you could go anywhere, why would you do that? Just seeing it and the way people live and what's going on, I'm probably going to shut the fuck up for at least another 3 to 6 months about how hard it is for me.
That's true.
And then I know there's people that watch this, well, I can't fucking go for a motorbike ride to a refugee camp, Dan. It's like, I know, fuckhead. Like, either could I 10 years ago. But you start with the gratitude journal. You start by walking down to the local bridge or train station. You'll see some pretty perspective shifting people.
Yeah. 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 Like I went to like a rehab place, yeah, where for obviously people trying to get clean of drugs.
Yeah.
And that was when I was clean already, you know, and I think I was a year clean or something, and I just wanted to go there and to see how they're still battling their addiction and just hear their stories and talk to them and share my own story, you know.
Yeah.
I remember just coming out of there and I was like, I felt like I was fucking reborn. You know what I mean? My empathy and sympathy was increased by fucking 10x. You know what I mean?
And I feel you. I was living in Melbourne, or at least I'd stopped in there. I ended up living there for a little bit and then realized why I left in the first place. Melbourne CBD, went down to the local bridge. I mean, I'm not sure why I do these things, and I'm not telling you stories. I'm like, oh, I'm such a fucking great person, so I don't care what you think of me. I'm telling you to hopefully get you to do this. I stopped in at 7-Eleven and I brought 5 or 6 flavored milks, and I brought 5 or 6 pies, and I took them down under the bridge, and there's a circle of men sitting there and it's kind of hanging out, and I just kind of controlled the frame as I do. And they're like, why is this guy here? What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Like, I didn't say anything. They're quite nice, actually. And I said, hey, guys, long story short, I'm just giving you these. Hope you have a great day. And they were very nice. They asked me to take a seat and said, no, I've got things to do. One offered me a joint that he'd rolled. I politely accepted. But I thought, oh, fuck, yeah, like these guys, it's cold in Melbourne. These guys are fucking sleeping under a bridge. And you have the good fortune to be able to buy them lunch. I mean, made me feel pretty good, and also just gave me perspective on whether you're renting, whether you own a house and you can't afford it, whether you're sleeping on your best friend's couch. I mean, all those scenarios are better than that.
Yeah. Powerful stuff. It's just shifting your perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, and I used to be a not great person. I mean, I'll leave it at that. But that's the reason why I do these things. And not because I got this fucking heart of gold and I care about everyone, because I don't. Like, that's the truth. Just like you don't, whoever's watching this. If you're honest with yourself. But it plants that seed in that man's mind that there's someone out there that cares. It plants that seed in someone else's mind that there's a possibility. And it also shifts my perspective. Like I said, it's not so bad. You should be grateful, and etc. I mean, everyone wins.
No, actually, just how you said that like that, it makes that person think that there's actually people out there that do care, you know?
That was one of the biggest reasons why I changed, not just why I made it. It was sickening work ethic, but people saw that and they're like, this guy's pretty complicated, but I think he deserves a shot. Or I know this man's history, but holy fuck, he works hard. I'll give him a shot.
Yeah, I noticed the same in my life, you know? I met certain people and certain things came in my life, opportunities or whatever, because of my energy. Do you know what I mean? They knew my story, but that story created my current energy in that moment.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's sickening work ethic. That's a fucking energy. You know what I mean? You don't just wake up in the morning with that shit. You know what I mean? That energy is created. So, yeah,
And life isn't black and white. Life isn't fair. I think we can all agree on that. But here's the thing, like a lot of the time it is a popularity contest. And I remember working in jobs like driving forklifts and things like that. And I would always walk into the warehouse. And I'm like, all right, baby, well, fuck another day. Let's do it. Like I wasn't loving that job like that much. But it was better than the other man. Like, oh, fuck, another day, same shit. And if the foreman or whoever's in charge of whatever circumstance, if he had to pick someone to be promoted and everyone's about the same, like who do you think he's going to pick?
yeah.
The person that stands out, the person who is bringing something, apart from just the work.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you weren't afraid to be yourself, you know? Sometimes what I notice in life is people don't fucking know who they are. Do you know what I mean? They really don't have a clue who they are.
Yeah.
You literally ask the question, tell me about yourself. I don't know. How can you say I don't know about yourself? But I'm sure you can fucking speak about Mary living down next door to you.
Yeah.
You can talk about your siblings. You know what I mean? Fucking.
I think it's the dangers of the world that we're in, because I do this now myself, where particularly with trading, you probably find yourself doing this too, where you're always outwardly looking at what's going on there, and you don't take time to inwardly stop and look at who you are. And we've both done this a lot over the years, which has given that awareness to us. But not only has technology and TVs and like there's always shit going on, or at least it seems that way. So you're almost forgiven for not stopping and looking inwards. But the same way you schedule in to go out with friends, like you need to make the time to just sit and be alone. I mean, you can take your partner, but go your separate ways and meditate in the park or think. I mean, you can do this at home. If I'm just trying to like corner off any reason why someone can't do this. This is why, again, this is why I'm doing this trip, not to just ride a fucking motorbike and take great Instagram photos, but to be alone with myself and be like, who are you now? Who are you now? What do you want now? Who are you after that perspective from seeing those people in a refugee camp? And then shifting that perspective, I bring it back to my current reality. And it's like, okay, the very things that you have now, you enjoy more. The very things that you have now, you're able to do more with, i.e. sometimes make better trades because you're not a pussy, or you've got better energy, or whatever it is.
That made me think of very similar what's going through my mind, because I said it to Linda. I said, I'm going to be a married man, and it's almost 6 weeks now. I'm going to be a married man in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And if you would have told me 4 years
I haven't received my wedding invitation yet, man. No, must be COVID, mail or something.
Sure, but I will see you anyway in Thailand after in our
There's
honeymoon.
a reason why I'm not invited to weddings, but that's a podcast for another day.
But it made me realize, just like what you said, who I am now. It made me think, okay, I'm gonna be a married man in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm the way I'm closing a chapter behind me of everything. Like pretty much, I met Linda when I was 21, and I'm getting married at 25. So everything that happened before 21 and even 21 to 25, I'm kind of closing that chapter, and now I'm a married man. So I'm gonna have to do the same thing like yourself. I'm gonna have to fucking say, okay, I'm a married man now. I'm in a different position now. You know, who am I now? What do I want now? I mean, the things, the answers are still probably going to be very, very similar to before I was married. But I still have to keep on top of that, right? I still have to be aware of what the fuck's going on, who I am now, and you know, I have to spend time with myself. You know what I mean?
Well, that's a very dangerous thing if you don't do that. Now, you see 35-year-old men, 45-year-old men who got married at your age, and they never took the time to ask who they were before and after that situation, or what it is that person wants. And I don't mean not to be married, but I just mean outside of that marriage and outside of your job, which you may or may not like what is it that you want? Because that 25-year-old man is still there at 45, and he's still thinking, maybe I can get laid when I go on work trips, or like whatever it is that men do at 45 that they probably shouldn't, particularly when they're married. And I used to think, like, how do men get there? And it's like, because for 20 years, I didn't stop to think, who am I? What do I want? What am I doing? Why am I doing it?
Yeah. That's what I have to ask myself, you know what I mean? Because listen, I have no role model, and this is probably going out for a lot of men watching this. I have no role model of a marriage, right? My mother is divorced, first marriage divorced. My father was never married. Uh, then even their relationship, my mother and my father, you know, thanks God they didn't get married, you know? But I don't have a role model. So my first role model for marriage was actually Linda's parents. Married 27 years. And when I met them, like we don't communicate because they don't speak English and I don't speak Slovakian. So we communicate pretty much in this translated. But I had to sit there and observe how they are. 27 years of marriage. I want to observe them. I want to see what it is. And
that's game.
Without even them doing much, you could just feel the energy. Energy don't fucking lie. I've become so good at reading energy, and Linda's completely next level. And that's why I really learned it from her also. I could read the energy. The love is crazy. The love is in the air. You know what I mean? They could be sitting on the other side of the couches together. Love is in the air.
Energy doesn't lie. Energy doesn't lie.
People do. Energy don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when it came for me to think, okay, I'm going to ask Linda to marry me. So what is the process that I have to go through to ask her to marry me? And I'm kind of like, I'm trying to put a meaning on marriage, right? A marriage, at the end of the day, what I constructed in my head was, it's a commitment that you're going to spend the rest of your life with this person, no matter what. Through everything, yeah, through loyalty, through love, through care, through respect, through all these things, right? This is the commitment. And I was kind of like, fuck me, I got a little bit of anxiety, you know? I was like, that's a big commitment, you know? I never made a commitment like this before.
It's a pretty big trade.
Yeah, exactly. And but at the same time, that the reward was that I get to keep this amazing woman in my life for the rest of my life. So the decision was easy for me to make. You know what I mean? This, of course, is a risk. You hear people like, my role model was my mother was divorced, and then her second relationship with my father was completely disaster. So how can I not think of that whole past experience of everything that I know in the past and construct my own? So I looked at Linda's parents, and I took it from them, and then I analyzed myself. I try to think. I fucking ask myself questions. And I found that answer. I want to keep Linda in my life for the rest of my life because I never met anyone like that before. ever.
Yeah.
And I met a lot of people. I've been with a few in long-term relationships. You know what I mean? A couple of years. And I was like, I couldn't even believe that someone like this that came in my life. She stuck with me, like you said on the second podcast. She seen me at my worst. You know what I mean? And she was there. She stayed.
That it builds quite a strong bond between a man and a woman, or a man and a man. Fuck, whatever you're into. But that's the thing. Like, I don't think many men realize the winners that they have. Not because of how bad the relationship is or whatever's going on, but if they just manage to get their shit together and the woman would stick around, I mean, why wouldn't they if you just got better? What would, like I said about shifting your perspective, the same person, the same relationship, the same marriage is a multitude of times better because you went away. I mean, you don't actually have to go away anywhere, just like to help you understand. You went away and came back better.
That was for me, yeah. I mean, if I wasn't improving, even if I wasn't improving now, like sometimes I fuck up, you know, I'm a man. Like some things I don't do are some of my responsibilities as a man in the house, right? I don't do some of the responsibilities. And then there's like, listen, you need to get your shit fucking together, you know what I mean? If I'm gonna marry this man, she clearly says, my father said, don't marry a man that he can do certain responsibilities as a man.
Yeah.
And from knowing Linda's father, he, you know, he's an amazing man. He's an amazing father. He's an amazing husband. You know what I mean? And I was like, fuck, I have to write my reflection journal in the morning now. Armo, don't be a fucking pussy. Get your shit together. Do more.
I'll send you a shirt.
You know what I mean? That's exactly what I wrote. And I said, Linda, look, I wrote it in my journal, you know? And Linda's like, that's great, but fucking do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, my old man said to me, and this is the best advice he ever gave me, he just said, a man always takes care of his responsibilities. And I mean, when you say that, you sound like a pretty perfect, responsible man.
Yeah.
But it's up to you to work out what those responsibilities are that makes you that man.
Yeah.
And then, like Linda said, fucking do them.
We can all talk the talk, right? We can talk all day long, but if we ain't walking, then we fucking...
One piece of advice. Now, this is why we want to fucking talk about this, because I get more questions about trading now than I do about the DFP. But whether it's working with you, committing to a trade, or just trying something new, someone says, Amanda, like, I'm afraid to do this. What do you say to them?
Fucking do it. Fucking do it. That's, I mean...
Go forward, isn't it?
Like that. I mean, you're going to be scared of anything, right? Let's take any phobia. You're fucking scared of spiders. You put a spider in your hand and hold it for 1 minute, I bet you won't be scared as much to do it the second time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Facing your fears. And I think, especially for yourself, Dan, and me, both of us, what we've done in our lives was face them fears. And like you said, I don't mind going to my rock bottom anymore because I've been there many times. You're not afraid. You've been there. You experienced that. You faced your fears. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
As long as if you live your life in seeing fear as something like not normal or not natural, then that's bullshit. Fear is very normal and very natural.
Well, here's something I do to break down the facade, or to break down my own lies. Show you. Top secret. What do I want to do? Do I want to take this holiday tonight? Which hotel do I want to stay at? Should I speak to that man and give him a piece of my mind? Insert thing that you never really make a clear-cut decision on. Heads, tails. And I think heads, I'm going around to that guy's place. I'm going to tell him what I think. Tails, I just move the fuck on and forget about it. I mean, I'll move the fuck on and forget about it after I've spoke my mind. But I mean, which one do you want to do? So it's not stuck in your mind, like I'll do it tomorrow, or like, what if he's got a gun? Or like whatever is stopping you from doing things. Heads or tails? The reason why I did that is, you know, as soon as you flip the coin, you know what it is you want to do, i.e. I want to marry Linda, but like whatever. Or I want to speak to that girl, heads or tails. Tails, I'm not going to speak to her to like get yourself out, or like no, or like the opposite. Yes or no. And I mean, if you can't make this, you flip the coin. And as soon as it flips, it's like, fuck, I want to speak to her. I hope it's not no. There it is, motherfucker. Like it tells you what to do. But because it's taken the decision out of your pussy hands, like you see it and you're like, God, I hope it's not no. It's like, oh, well, there it is. Or you might wait till it lands and it's like, book that ticket to go to that place. Well, I don't actually want to go there, so I'm not doing it. There's the answer.
Hotels, book that. I know I want heads.
Yeah. I mean, that's very small ones, but you get caught up in like, oh, this one's a good price and this one has like a nice view. It's like, just fucking pick one.
I mean, you can always. I'm very similar. You know, I don't do. I know the trick of the coin. Even stuff like, you know, the 5-second rule, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you make a decision. Stuff like that. These are all powerful things. I have used them in my life, believe it or not. But what I notice for myself is,
and not everyone's as wise as us, mate. That's why we're the ones talking.
And Linda's really good at this. Linda's really good at making fast decisions. And I don't know what it is. She calculates them very quickly and just goes with her gut feeling, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I learned.
Well, the psychology behind that is you and me are so afraid of what can possibly happen because we know the darkness that we end up with decision-making incapabilities. I mean, that's the psychology behind it, but that's when it gets messy. Like, just flip a coin, fuckhead.
That's good. I love that, though. It's a good thing for people to do, definitely, you know?
Yeah, well, that's why it's great to have a couple like that, where it's so diverse, where it's one person just amplifies their strengths, and then someone like yourself amplifies their strengths, and it just makes this yin-yang, so to speak. All right, brother. Pleasure talking to you. I mean, like, we can go and go and go, but let's save it for the next one. Always a pleasure. That's it. That's it. I mean, we started off talking about death, and then we started talking about love and marriage. I mean, I think we turned it around with our different perspectives, don't you think?
We did well. I enjoyed this one, Dan. Thank you.
All right, brother. Trade safe, and I'll see you in the next one.
Talk to you soon.